Hello and welcome to this week's show, and we arrive in 1976 with the horror classic that is The Omen, starring Gregory Peck and Remick. Our stunt coordinator is Alf Joint, and he's got his hands full with a great many gags. So let's start with a good old-fashioned hanging, shall we? So here is the hanging scene. That's Holly Palance stood there, drops the rope, and she looks now, she's on a very high building, of course, but she's really only 5 feet above a platform that she's going to drop down onto. The harness, of course, it's all attached to the rope there behind, giving the impression she's tied it around her neck. Look at the way it flows up to the window frame. So she drops down out of sight and lands, and then there's the long shot. This is Wendy Leach now dropping in, and she's got two directions to go in: vertically, where she has a wire attached, she's craned, and then also horizontally, where she's also wired from inside the room, causing her for that inertia to bring her back through the window. She has her heels up so she catches the bottom of the window to break it as well. It's very graphic, but it is very, very, very cleverly worked out with John Richardson, of course, the special effects man here, and Wendy does majority of that, and then Holly gets into the harness for the final shot. Now, not content with being worshipped by the staff, Damien now decides to bump off his own mother, Remick, using the three-wheeled goldfish approach. Kids, eh? You just can't trust them, can you? So here's Damien scooting along, completely unaware, yeah, right, that his mom is adjusting into the table, and Remick does the first part, and then Wendy Leach goes over the balcony. Lovely shot of bang of the fish going. That's Wendy hanging on there. She's not got very far to fall, obviously, as far as that's concerned, but you can't, there's a lot of things to consider with something like this. So the rig has been worked. The camera and Remick are in the same position as she falls. And there she goes. The camera rig, that's Wendy turning, and then the camera rig, which spins her and lands on the opposite wall. So it is a wall shot, and it's still a very clever piece of rigging. I did want to mention this. Look at just bosh! Oh, Damien gets cuffed on the way past. Quite right, too. Animals play a major part in this movie, especially the dogs. So here to tell us more about that is the animal coordinator on the picture, Wayne Docksey.
Well, what happened was that they went to these dogs in the States, right, because they'd seen a film called The Doberman Gang. Well, they went to the same people that train those dogs, right, and then they realised the amount of time it would take to get them into the UK. And because I was involved with Dobermans, and still am, they rang me. And I said, well, I can't get the dogs that you want in the UK to do what they wanted, because they sent me some I don't think they sent me the script pages, as I remember. I think they sent me a breakdown, right, and I said, you need 6, and then you need standbys for those 6. Okay, so you're going to need 10 dogs. I got in touch with the Woodgates. At the time they had trained Dobermans and Rots. Speaking to Ben and told Ben what the breakdown was, and one of them was where I think Gregory Peck was led on the ground and the dogs attacked him. What happened was the Gregory Peck on the ground being shaken and attacked, right, that was the problem. Okay. So I came up with an idea that if the person on the ground had a rig on, and what we did is we tied the dogs to the rig and then called them off, it would look like they were shaking the body about.
Oh, I see, right.
And so what we said was that to get dogs that were trained to attack to do that would be very difficult.
Yes.
Because they probably do the opposite. Yeah. And if we had a stunt guy on the ground, they were in danger. And then what we did was the trained dogs that we had did the attack scene in the graveyard.
Right.
And all I did was stand there and supervise it.
I do remember. I was not long watching the. There's a very good documentary on the Blu-ray about the making of the Omen, and the writer had been very specific. He'd actually made the script writer had made stage instructions on the side, which he said if this picture was initially made in America, which I believe was the initial plan, if they'd made it in America, they would have just, they'd have brushed past those stage directions completely. Whereas, because it was made in the UK, he mentioned that in that graveyard sequence, one of those graves needed to have rats scurrying around in a certain particular area, and he said he remembered being on set and they had trained rats.
They didn't have trained rats. There's no such thing, and I did the rats as well.
Oh, okay, right. Well, you can answer that question then. So the whole concept of a trained rat is an impossibility. It goes from A to B on cue, presumably via.
Well,
how do you do that?
It's a matter of making certain that they know where the food is.
Okay.
And you start out of shot, edge of frame.
Right.
And you stand at the other side, edge of frame. Wave the food around, make certain they smell and know where it is, so that they scurry across to get the food.
Okay, so it's merely a simple case of attracting its attention and getting it to go from where it's over there to over where it needs to be over here. Let's finish this week with a look at Alf Joint doubling Lee Remick for her departure from hospital and making an appearance at the end of the movie. Ironically, he was a member of the NHS. He navigated height safely, as we'll see here. So here, being visited in hospital, of course, by Mrs. Baylock, Billy Whitelaw. It's a wonderful sequence, this. Obviously, a phone call has been received and she's been told, get dressed as quickly as you can. We're sending somebody round. She wasn't expecting Billy Whitelaw. Nobody was. But she walks closer to her, then the cut. And this is Alf Joint's big moment. It's Northwich Hospital in Middlesex, which is where this was filmed. And of course, the girls look up, the nurses look up, and out comes Alf from the window. Now, he's doubling Lee Remick. He was a high-fall man. He was one of the top high-fall men in the world. And Stuart Baird, the editor, kept saying, but Alf, you keep moving your arms. You're moving your arms. He said, well, of course I'm moving my arms. I'm having to make sure I hit the target. And the target is a relatively small target. It is, of course, a landing area, but it's based inside the ambulance, which, of course, had been done before on a number of pictures, but maybe not at this height, I don't know. But Alf has to position himself in such a way. Everything from inside that ambulance has been removed. It is a prop ambulance for the purpose of the exercise, and inside is padding. Inside is a landing box rig, and it's got a fake roof. But he has to hit it right. So he's having to leave his tuck till absolutely the last minute. He's almost bent double there because he's trying to keep everything right and then hit it with his back in the right place. As soon as he hits it correctly, then that roof will then fall apart, and he lands just there. He hasn't got to go down very far, but he lands just there. And it's a very classy sequence. It's very, very well received, of course, and the windows firing out at the end of the sequence as well. The doors bursting open, and there is Lee Remick, who, if we thought she was dead at the end of the accident, well, she's certainly dead now. There's no two ways about that. And the camera zooming in. A lot of zooming going on here. Richard Donner does that very well, coming straight in on the face. But it's the big action sequence. It's the big action gag in the picture. And always one of those things that you'll remember Alf Joint for, but it's a great moment. Alf, of course, also makes an appearance at the end of the movie as the police officer that bursts in to prevent Gregory Peck, here he is now, to prevent Gregory Peck from killing his son, and takes the shot that kills him. Of course, after he'd done the Omen, he moved on to Bridge Too Far, Superman, Bear Island, Superman 2, American Werewolf in London, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi, to name but a few. Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget to join me next week when we will be joined by this fella, John Wayne, in McHugh. So until then, bye for now.